Hey there, history buffs. Today we're diving into the intriguing world of the Moai statues of Easter Island. Get ready to be amazed by these gigantic stone figures that have puzzled scientists for years. In this video, we'll debunk some long-standing myths about how these statues were made, explore the latest discovery of an entire village lost beneath one of the ceremonial platforms, and discover why some scholars now believe that a much older and advanced civilization may have played a bigger role in the creation of these mysterious Moai than previously thought. So grab your detective hats and join us as we uncover the truth behind the making of the Moai. Don't forget to subscribe if you love ancient mysteries. Now let's unravel the past together. Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, is an isolated volcanic island in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Its remote location has added to the mystery surrounding its history and its most famous feature, the Moai statues. The island is about 3,500 kilometers from the coast of Chile, which is the closest point on land. Easter Island was first settled by the Rapa Nui people, who arrived from the east in large double-hulled canoes sometime before 1200 CE. They brought with them chickens, pigs, and rats, but no cattle, sheep, or goats. This may indicate that they either did not need these animals for food or that they did not survive the journey across the ocean. These statues are a testament to the skill and ingenuity of the Rapa Nui people, who created them using only primitive tools. But despite their imposing presence, much of their history remains shrouded in secrecy. In fact, for a long time, little was known about the island's history, and the origins of the statues remained a mystery. There are around 887 Moai on the island today. They range in height from 3.5 meters to 9.5 meters tall, and each statue weighs several tons. Most of the statues have elongated heads, angular faces, and are depicted wearing pukau hats. These hats, which look like giant top hats, are actually ceremonial headpieces that symbolize power and authority. Some statues also wear belts, which represent the connection between the earthly and spiritual realms. While their intended purpose remains unknown, the Moai statues were likely used for religious ceremonies and rituals. It's believed that each statue represented a clan or ancestral spirit and played a significant role in the island's cultural and social life. As we delve deeper into the world of the Moai, we'll encounter numerous theories attempting to explain how these colossal statues were made. For many years, it was believed that the statues were carved using primitive tools and then transported using wooden platforms and a rope system. However, recent discoveries have challenged these long-held beliefs, leading to new and exciting theories. One of the most popular theories among archaeologists and historians is that the Moai statues were constructed using wooden platforms and rope systems. This theory suggests that the islanders would build a platform made out of wood and then use ropes to pull the statue into place. This theory seemed plausible, given the resources available to the islanders at the time. However, it had its limitations and could not explain how the statues were moved long distances. Another theory proposed that the statues were somehow rolled across the island using a sophisticated system of ramps and grooves. This theory was based on the discovery of Ahu Tongariki, one of the largest ceremonial platforms on the island. This platform contained 15 Moai and had a series of grooves cut into it, suggesting that the statues were rolled rather than carried. However, this theory had its own set of challenges and could not account for all of the Moai found on the island. Now let's take a closer look at the details of these two fascinating theories. The conventional wisdom about how the Moai were made and moved has been a topic of debate among scholars for decades. Let's start with the traditional theory. This theory suggests that the Moai statues were first carved using basic tools like stone axes and chisels. Once the statues were complete, they were then transported to their final resting places using a combination of wooden platforms and rope systems. To move the statues, the Rapa Nui people would create a platform made out of wood, attach ropes to the platform, and then use manpower to pull the statues along the ground. While this theory may seem straightforward, it has several limitations. First, the Rapa Nui people did not have access to metal tools, so carving the statues would have been a laborious task. Additionally, transporting the statues over long distances using this method would have required a lot of manpower and resources. Also, this theory does not explain how the statues were moved over rough terrain or how they were lifted onto their ceremonial platforms. Despite these limitations, this theory was widely accepted until more recent discoveries shed new light on the construction methods used by the Rapa Nui people. The idea that the Moai statues were rolled across the island using ramps and grooves is a fascinating development in the study of these ancient monuments. This theory was proposed by some historians and archaeologists who examined the island's landscape and the layout of the ceremonial platforms. According to this theory, the Rapa Nui people would create a series of ramps and grooves that would allow them to move the statues over long distances. Once the statues reached their destination, they would be lifted onto their platforms using a combination of ramps and levers. While this theory offers a more plausible explanation for how the Moai were moved, it too has its limitations. Building and maintaining a system of ramps and grooves would have required a lot of effort and resources. Additionally, this theory does not explain how the statues were carved or why the Rapa Nui people went to such great lengths to move them. For example, some scholars believe that the Moai statues were symbols of power and authority, and that moving them to central locations was a way to display the strength and wealth of the Rapa Nui kingdom. Others argue that the statues were intended to act as guardians of the island, protecting the Rapa Nui people from harm. It is important to note that these theories are not mutually exclusive, and that both the traditional theory and the ramp theory have their merits. In fact, new discoveries suggest that a combination of both methods may have been used to construct and move the Moai statues. Researchers have recently uncovered evidence that the Rapa Nui people used a variety of techniques to carve and transport the statues. For example, some statues were carved using a technique known as pecking, where small pebbles were used to chip away at the rock. Other statues were carved using a hammer and chisel method, which is more sophisticated and would have required more advanced tools. Additionally, researchers have discovered evidence that the Rapa Nui people used a system of rollers and levers to move the statues over short distances. This discovery suggests that the traditional theory may have been correct in some instances, while the ramp theory may have been used in others. To further complicate matters, some scholars now believe that a much older and more advanced civilization may have played a bigger role in the creation of the Moai than previously thought. According to this theory, the ancient inhabitants of Easter Island were more advanced than previously believed and possessed knowledge of engineering and construction techniques that were far ahead of their time. They would have been able to build complex structures and move heavy objects using sophisticated tools and techniques that were unknown to later civilizations. Proponents of this theory believe that these ancient builders left behind evidence of their advanced knowledge in the form of structures and artifacts that have been discovered on the island. For example, some scholars believe that the island's ceremonial platforms, known as ahu, are evidence of advanced construction techniques. These platforms are massive structures made of stone that served as the base for the Moai statues. Some scholars argue that the precision with which they were built and the complexity of their design indicate that they were constructed using advanced tools and techniques. Other evidence of advanced construction can be seen in the island's petroglyphs, which are ancient rock carvings that depict various symbols and designs. Some scholars believe that these petroglyphs show evidence of advanced mathematical knowledge and astronomical alignments. Overall, the discovery of these structures and artifacts suggests that the ancient inhabitants of Easter Island were more advanced than previously thought, and that they may have played a role in the construction of the Moai statues. However, it's important to note that this theory is highly controversial and not widely accepted by the scientific community. Many scholars argue that there is no evidence to support the idea of a more advanced civilization on Easter Island, and that the island's ancient inhabitants were just as primitive as other societies of the time. They argue that the structures and artifacts that have been discovered can be explained by more conventional means, and that there is no need to invoke a more advanced civilization to explain them. Despite the controversy, the theory of a more advanced civilization on Easter Island is an intriguing one that has captured the imaginations of many researchers. Whether or not there is evidence to support it remains to be seen, but it is a reminder that there is still much that we do not know about the ancient world and that there are many mysteries yet to be uncovered. A new excavation at the base of one of the island's 700-plus Moai statues has revealed the shocking news that underneath the ceremonial platform lies an entire village. Archaeologists unearthed foundations of houses and other structures, suggesting that up to 1,200 people lived here, maybe even thriving. With nearly 900 Moai scattered across the island, each one is unique, boasting different facial features and expressions. And each one is a source of fascination for archaeologists trying to piece together the history of this isolated culture. But why did they stop making the Moai? Was it because they ran out of resources? Did they fall victim to climate change or warfare? There's evidence to support each of these theories. Recent research has shown that the Rapa Nui people may have inadvertently caused their own demise. Their civilization flourished for centuries, but ultimately collapsed due to environmental factors. The Rapa Nui people had no natural enemies on the island, and no records of warfare exist. Instead, their downfall may have been caused by their own actions. The trees on Easter Island provided the islanders with food, shelter, and a means of transportation. They used the wood from the trees to build canoes to explore the ocean and also used the leaves of the trees as a type of currency. However, the demand for wood increased as the population grew and eventually the trees began to disappear. As the forest diminished, so did the resources available to the Rapa Nui people. They began to rely on fish and birds for sustenance, and their society began to crumble. One theory suggests that the Rapa Nui people may have overhunted the island's bird population, leading to a decline in their numbers. Another theory suggests that they may have overfarmed the land, leading to soil erosion and crop failure. Whatever the case may be, the environment of Easter Island changed drastically over time, and this had a profound impact on the Rapa Nui people and their civilization. The environmental changes on Easter Island may have also played a role in the construction of the Moai statues. Some scholars believe that the statues were built as a way to appease the gods and ensure the return of the forest. Others believe that the statues were built to commemorate the island's ancestors and to honor their memory. Whatever the true motivation behind the construction of the Moai statues may have been, one thing is clear, that the Rapa Nui people were a highly skilled and resourceful civilization. They were able to build these massive statues without the use of modern technology, and they were able to sustain themselves on the island for centuries. The Moai statues of Easter Island remain one of the most fascinating mysteries of the ancient world. Despite centuries of study, there is still much that we do not know about these statues and the civilization that created them. However, new discoveries are being made all the time, and each new discovery brings us one step closer to understanding the true meaning of the Moai and the Rapa Nui people who built them. What do you think about the long-held theories regarding the construction of the Moai? How do you feel about the more recent findings that challenge our understanding of these ancient monuments? Do you find the idea of a more advanced civilization on Easter Island intriguing, or do you believe that more research is needed before drawing any conclusions? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this fascinating topic. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on all things history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through time. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.